So this is my personal testimony of how meditation helped me overcome childhood trauma. So just to paint the picture, by the age of 7, I was already faced with a near-death experience. By the time I was 16 years old, I'd seen so much violence growing up that I felt like I was growing up in a war zone. Not to mention, my dad, who I was mad at the time, ended up dying on his birthday when I was 16 years old. And my last words to him were not good words. So he actually died while we were on bad terms. And so even though he was no longer on the earth, I still credited him for a lot of the trauma that I was dealing with on the inside. All of the violence that I grew up with, I never forgot it. And it took me until I was 27 years old to finally get over all of that. So one day at the age of 27, I didn't tell anybody, but I was planning on leaving the planet, if you know what I mean. I just come to a place inside of myself where I was just completely numb and I didn't want to be here. But something spoke to me and it was just like, yo, you've been blaming everybody for your circumstances, but you haven't lived as if you are in control of your own life. Why don't you work on yourself? And so instead of taking my life, I decided to work on myself for 30 days. And then I eventually stumbled across meditation. So one day I'm sitting in meditation, I got my eyes closed, and something just really sparks my inspiration to just keep repeating the words, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. So I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, and all of these emotions are coming up. But every time something comes up, I just kept on repeating, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. Silently to myself, saying the same thing. I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. All of a sudden, after about 10 minutes, an image of my father came up in my mind. And instead of letting that emotion control me like I would normally do, I just kept looking at my father's image in my mind and just telling him, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. Then all of a sudden, I cried like a fucking baby, like boohoo crying. But at the same time, I felt like the weight of the world had lifted off my shoulder. For the first time in my life, I believe I met my real self at that moment. My real self was the version of myself that didn't have the weight of the world on his shoulder. And man, it was just the most blissful experience I've ever felt up until that point. But I've had it many times since then, okay? So that was when I was 27 years old, and I'm 39 now. So the point that I'm making here is I learned that forgiveness is a big tool, and you can actually do forgiveness meditation. Set your alarm clock for like 30 minutes and just repeat the words, I forgive you, silently to yourself. And no matter what comes up, no matter what thoughts or emotion arise, just keep saying, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. You know, say it slowly, slower than that. I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. And I'm telling you, you will literally remove that trauma, because that trauma is nothing more than an emotional holding pattern. And a lot of times we feel like in order to deal with that trauma, we got to keep going back into our memories and reliving it. But you don't have to relive it if you're willing to forgive it. So I just forgave it. And I'm telling you now, man, I am 100% completely peaceful inside of myself. I have nothing but great days, good days, amazing days, wonderful days. Compared to before that moment, I literally wanted to leave the planet. So I truly appreciate you for answering or for asking this question, because it's a real good one. And I hope what I shared with you will help you remove the trauma that you've been experiencing. Master yourself.